Hello, back again on the Top Recap channel. This time I will tell a movie's entitled Collateral. Let's get straight into the storyline. The story begins with a crowd scene at an airport where two men have a small collision. However, the incident turns out to be no coincidence, but a professional trick performed by certain people to avoid suspicion.
Enjoy LA.
The scene then shifts to the largest taxi company in Los Angeles, where we meet a man named Max. He is a driver who has worked for the company for 12 years. One night, Max gets a passenger, a beautiful woman named Annie, who works in the office. As a driver known to be friendly, Max happily accompanies Annie to chat. The conversation made Annie feel comfortable and not awkward talking to him.
Max.
From the conversation, it was revealed that Annie was a prosecutor who was handling a large and complicated case. She felt anxious, worried that all the evidence she had gathered might not be strong enough to win the upcoming trial.
How do you like being a lawyer?
Because Max was willing to listen well, Annie felt sympathy for him. Before leaving, Annie gave Max her card, hoping that they would meet again in the future. Shortly after, Max picked up his next passenger, Vincent, who had been spotted at the airport earlier. Although they didn't know each other, Max was friendly and engaged Vincent in conversation. Their conversation flowed until Vincent realized that they had arrived at their destination.
This is the cleanest cab I've ever been in.
Listen, I'm in town on a real estate deal, closing one night.
Because he felt comfortable with Max, Vincent wanted to continue using Max's services because he still had 4 other locations to visit that night. Max initially rejects Vincent's offer as it would be against company rules. Still, he quickly changes his mind when Vincent shows him some money as payment.
Cool, we got a deal. Here's $300 down. What's your name?
Max.
I'm Vincent.
I can't stay double parked here though.
I'll meet you in the alley behind the building.
Shortly after Vincent entered the apartment, Max was seen enjoying a meal in his taxi without the slightest suspicion of what Vincent was actually doing.
What the hell? Fuck.
But suddenly, Vincent appeared and immediately forced Max to put the man's body into the trunk of his car.
Red light, Max.
Hold on.
What? Pop. Okay.
From there, Max began to feel strange when Vincent suddenly involved him in the situation. He realized that if Vincent was caught by the police, Max would also be caught. Having no other choice, Max finally followed Vincent's orders and left the place immediately. On the way, Vincent reveals that he is actually a hitman. The confession scares Max to death, especially when a police patrol arrives and forces them out of the taxi.
License, registration.
From Max's stammered speech, it's clear how panicked he is. However, for the police, this behavior was suspicious and made them even more suspicious. Sure enough, the officers immediately peeked into the trunk, and if its contents were known, their fate would be over. Luckily, Vincent handled the situation, and the patrol left without negotiation. Upon arrival at the second destination, Vincent tied Max's hands before leaving, preventing Max from seeking help.
Shit.
However, Max was approached by a group of robbers who wanted to rob him.
I don't give a fuck what they're tied to.
Right after the robbers managed to carry off the stolen goods, Vincent, who had just completed his mission, immediately asked to return the goods. But because they refused, Vincent was forced to kill the robbers.
Fuck.
After the incident, Max could only warn Vincent not to bring him into Vincent's business again. Instead, Vincent invited Max to relax with a drink and enjoy a jazz music performance at a cafe.
Come on, finish up. Buy a drink.
Vincent seemed to really admire the trumpet playing of the jazz group. After the performance ended, he invited the man to have a drink with him, and they engaged in a long conversation until the cafe was completely empty.
Lounge jazz ain't the draw that it used to be.
But it turned out that the man was Vincent's third target.
The job I contracted to do.
Max starts to feel unable and wants to stop everything, which leads to a dispute between the two.
I'm not playing.
At the same time, a radio call informs Max that his sick mother is searching for his whereabouts. To avoid getting the police involved, which could complicate the situation, Vincent takes Max to see his mum at the hospital.
People buy flowers. Buy flowers. Excuse me. Keep the change.
Max's mother was very happy to see her son back in good health at the hospital. Vincent kindly responded to his mother's every conversation while carefully concealing his true identity.
You paid for my flowers? They're beautiful. Well, Max.
Deeply disgusted by Vincent's manipulations, Max spontaneously snatched Vincent's bag and intended to throw it away.
I'm just in town tonight.
When you come back.
Max thought that by doing so, everything would be over. However, he was wrong, as Vincent is a highly disciplined hitman. Vincent realized that all the files related to the target had been lost, so Max had to take responsibility for his actions and ask him to get the files back. To do this, he must go to an official named Felix, who has been hiring Vincent's services all along.
I killed him. I'm kidding.
After successfully passing the inspection, Max was finally allowed to meet Felix by claiming to be Vincent.
Vincent. I'm Vincent.
Vincent deliberately used this strategy to keep his identity secret from his boss. In terms of appearance, Max did not look convincing at all, but Felix did not seem to care about that. What mattered to him was that his client had to complete the remaining 2 targets. The data about the 2 targets had been stored on a flash drive, which Max immediately brought to Vincent.
Federal?
I don't know. You tell me. That's why I tossed the list. But hey, shit happens. That leaves 2.
6th Street by Alexandria, club called Fever. No.
Meanwhile, in another location, a detective named Fanning was investigating the death of the first target.
And contact SID, I got a crime scene.
Roger.
An eyewitness reported that he had seen a taxi parked at the scene. However, because this information was not enough, Fanning immediately went to the hospital to see if the victim's body had been secured there.
I saw a cab parked here earlier tonight with 2 guys walking around the hood.
Okay. Just keep knocking. Just keep knocking.
Of the bodies, Fanning was suspicious of 2 that appeared to have been killed by being shot by a professional.
This guy, he's shooting tight groups too, right?
Therefore, Fanning immediately formed a special team to conduct further investigations. As it turns out, these murders were planned to get rid of some witnesses, given that there was a big case involving a notorious drug cartel, namely Felix. Given that Felix is due to go on trial tomorrow morning, it is likely that he will do everything possible to disrupt the proceedings.
Look at that right there.
What is it?
Email me his license. To my cell phone.
Cab company's dispatcher. This guy's been driving that cab for 12 years.
Guys with trigger time, skill sets, real tradecraft, look like a cab driver.
Assault team and remaining units, you will take Vincent. First unit on the scene will get the witness, Peter Lim, get him out.
Shortly after, Fanning and his team headed to a nightclub owned by a Chinese businessman named Peter Lim. This man is one of the witnesses in Felix's case who should have received police protection long ago. While the other officers move to secure Peter Lim, Fanning is more focused on keeping an eye on Max's movements, who he assumes to be Vincent. Meanwhile, the real Vincent targeted the nightclub security guards to take down. This worsens the situation, leaving Vincent free to carry out his actions.
I'm not Vincent. That's me.
On the other hand, Detective Fanning has just realized that the man he arrested is just an ordinary taxi driver. Vincent appeared to be waiting for them when they arrived outside the club.
No, drive!
So far, Max can't escape Vincent, who keeps using him. He thinks desperately about driving his taxi fast, hoping that a police patrol will be able to help him.
I think you're low, my brother. Way low. I tried to gamble my way out from under, but that was just a warning.
Huh? Shoot me! Slow down!
Go fuck yourself.
Max's actions this time attract the attention of the police patrol and allow Vincent to escape. However, when a dead body is found in the trunk of Max's taxi, he is accused of being involved in a murder case related to witnesses in Felix's crime case. As Max is caught in a very difficult situation, he accidentally discovers that Vincent's latest target is a prosecutor named Annie. Quickly, Max starts thinking of ways to save her. After escaping the police, Max took his gun and quickly left while trying to contact Annie.
Go to
U.S. Attorney's Office.
Annie.
Yes.
It's Max.
Annie had no idea that, as a defendant in a major case she was handling, Felix had paid an executioner to kill her right next to the prosecutor's office building. Max saw Vincent's movements, who was already inside Annie's office. Fortunately, Annie was in a different room then, giving Max time to report the incident to the police.
Max.
Listen, where are you right now? Listen, just stay there and just call the police. Just call the police.
Suddenly, Vincent managed to cut off the electricity around the room, which made Annie unable to escape and contact anyone.
911.
Under these circumstances, Max decided to go to the building's security. However, upon arrival, Max discovers that Vincent has already paralyzed the security guards. This meant that Max had to pick Annie up and rescue her immediately. Back to Annie, who has realized that Vincent is right in her room. Although Annie tries to hide, she knows that eventually, Vincent will find her. Finally, Vincent manages to get into a position where he can finish Annie immediately, but Max arrives at the right time. Max then managed to secure Annie and take her to escape into the subway station. However, on the other hand, Vincent was still able to survive his gunshot wound and did not want to let his target get away. After a tiring chase, Vincent finally stopped at a train carriage, convinced that his target's position was trapped and that she could not escape. Since there was no other option, Max tried to drive Vincent away with a few shots. However, because they were blocked by the carriage door, their gun bullets were used up in vain. It was then that Max ventured to approach Vincent. Apparently, at this time, Vincent, who had lost a lot of blood, could not do anything else. He just sat there silently while slowly letting go of his life.